welcome back to Bunters Yard, and today we are going to be working on this this plank wagon from Hornby. This is the Spiers Plank Wagon. This is one from the 90s, one of the earlier models, and it is part number R031. If you're interested, that's the Hornby number. They made these for about 3 or 4 years, I think, and I've realised I've got a few of these knocking around, so I thought we'd do a little job on these. I've actually got 3, and we're going to pop them in a siding and sort of relic them a little bit, make them all slightly different. These were sort of coal wagons from London, as you see there, so there'll be remnants of coal and bits and pieces. But anyway, first thing we need to do is we're going to have to, they're all numbered the same, which is a bit odd, so I'm going to change the numbers on 2 of them, and I think we're going to take the tension locks off and replace those with chains, and then we'll distress the paintwork. So I think to do that we're using this Tamiya sponge today. This is 1000 grit, comes on a sheet, and you just need a little bit at a time, so it's going to last for quite some time. So just cut a little piece off, and we'll just flat this back. Now this is actually a gloss paint on here, which isn't ideal for us anyway, so flattening it back is always going to be a good idea. But we're taking some of the livery off with this and just making it look a bit old and distressed, because as it's been on the track for a number of years, it's going to not be as pristine as it would be when it came out of the factory. And we need to get rid of that number, so I'm going to try with the Tamiya sponge, just see if we can carefully get rid of the number, the rolling number on this. So it looks like it's going to come off okay. So it doesn't matter if you don't get everything off, the new numbers will obscure that. Now we don't need to renumber this necessarily, just that we've got 3 of them and it looked a bit weird if they're all got the same numbers on, so we're going to do that with some new decals later. These tension locks, these are quite soft, so we can just cut them off with these cutters, and also the hook, the little bit that holds the hook on, we just cut that off as well. We don't need that. And then at the end here we've got these sort of hooks fitted. We're going to actually replace these with proper 3-link chains. Just a nice sort of a touch. They're not particularly expensive. We'll show them in a little bit. And while we're at that, there's a moulding line that goes around that the frame rail, so we'll just delete that as well with our Dremel. So obviously I've done all 6 ends of each of the wagons, and now we're just going to sort of delete some of the planks. So we're going to cut some of the planks out just to make it look like they're worn and rotted away, because these are sitting on sidings. These are not in use anymore. These are sort of ex rolling stock, so they're just rotting away somewhere. So if we look at some reference pictures of these, which we've got to go against today, this is so some of these planks would just have rotten away and just fallen off. Some would be replaced, so we're going to make some of those look as if they've been replaced. We'll repaint them in a bit, and we just add in a bit of distress. Now this middle plank on the door, this top plank on the middle door, I should say, I'm going to get rid of this completely. But there's those little metal sort of join parts, so I want to keep them in place. I'm going to try and cut around those if I can. Now this Dremel tool would just get the bulk of the plastic out of the way. We're going to need to clean this up in a little bit. Now you don't need to, again, you don't need to do it this way. You can use a cutting disc, or you can just not even cut the panels off if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. I've just seen this and I like the look of it. So the rest of the top rails, we're just going to distress those just a little bit, just to make it look like they've been in use for many years. We don't want them completely square, which can look a bit odd. And then just with our Tamiya sponge again, our 1000 grit, we're just going to flatten back the inside and the outside just to make it a little bit smoother. Now we're going to add a couple of repairs to this as well. I've seen this again on some images, some reference images, and I've used this before on some NCB wagons that we've made before. And this is just to simulate sort of metal repair panels. Some of them are done just to hold planks in place where they've become adrift on one end like that. So there's only sort of fitted on one side now. So then there's a panel to hold that in place. And then sometimes where a panel is just snapped in the middle, it'll be patched together with a metal plate. Now they look a bit weird because these are blue. These are old bits of photo etch that I hang on to. Once they're painted silver and then rusted up, hopefully they'll look the part. So just tapping these in with super glue. Now my experience of super glue is that it sets really quickly on your fingers, so I'm trying not to use my fingers too much, and rather than that just using the tweezers. So just do that last patch on there. We've got others to do. All the wagons are going to be slightly different, and I'll just get this one in place on here, and then I'll crack on with the others, and I'll get back to you in a bit. So our next job is to just lighten up that wood, make it look a bit faded and weathered. And we use this middle grey from AK Interactive. Now if you're using paints through a airbrush, always worth cleaning the nozzle off of the dropper bottle before you put it in the airbrush. Otherwise you can take bits of dried up paint with you into the airbrush and clog up the nozzle. So just give it a little wipe over before you pour, and after before you put the lid on. So just keep it clean if you can. And then we're just going to give this a light coat on the inside. Now I'm not going to mask the outside of the plank wagon. If we sort of shoot from one side like this from the inside, then we should sort of reduce any overspray. We can always wipe it off if we need to. With acrylics you get a little while before it dries, but we'll be careful. And I'm not going to take too much time on the inside because it's going to have some different some powders and different paints anyway. So, and then just the edges where we've cut the wood up, we just need to add some colours in there. We're going to use the same grey. This is the AK Interactive one, and you can use different tones. Maybe sort of mix and match. Maybe use like a brown or a darker grey, just to add a bit of texture to that. But again, as I say, it's going to be more paints going over the top of this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this little bit, but it's just to get rid of that plastic look. Now typically on sort of older plank wagons, that some of the planks have been repaired and repainted, and so we're just going to add a few of those in. You can choose as many as you want to on your wagon, none at all if you want, or as many as you feel like doing, really, whatever suits the style that you're modelling in. So we're using this is the same grey from AK Interactive that we've used on the inside. I'm using it from a brush, and although there's one of the wood colours as well that comes in the set. I'll put the link down below. Now these, because they are already thinned, they won't cover as well. So especially when you're going to go over the decals, over the livery, from where it says the Spiers already, it's not going to cover that too well. So we'll probably go around and give it a second coat. I'll wait for this to dry for 10-15 minutes, then we'll give it another coat on the plain yellow. it's going to cover not too bad. I'll probably still give a second coat. We just need to choose out some random planks all around the wagon that have been sort of replaced or repaired. So these this can either be faded wood, or it could just be like a grey prime or whatever you choose to think it of being. And this is the wood colour. So this is obviously where it's being replaced, and they've not painted it. They've just left it as bare wood and it's faded. And using a fine brush, this is the 00, I think, this particular brush. It's quite tricky to get in these little triangular parts, you know, where these little braces sort of cross over. And I've also added white. I've added a couple of white planks around as well. And then we're just finally on these little repair parts. We need to just paint these in whatever colour. This is steel. This is a metallic colour. Just need to paint those in just to get rid of that blue. And then we need to fit our decals. So these have been printed. We printed these ourselves. So they just get a soak for 30 seconds in a warm water, and then we'll just manoeuvre them into place. They're very similar, maybe a touch smaller, but they're pretty similar. So we'll be happy with those. They're never going to be consistent, even if you have a look at three seemingly identical wagons. There's going to be slight differences. Numbers will be placed in different places and so on. So now that's on, we'll just use this microsole and just to dab a little bit of this onto the decal and let that dry, and that will basically it softens the decal and it helps it stick. Now you can see that it's once it's dried, it is a different surface, and that's because decals are generally have got a gloss surface, and the wagon is a matte. So we need to give that a coat of lacquer, which I'll do off camera. Just gives it the same sort of texture, so it will attract paints and powders the same. So on this part here, we're using this is the Model Air. This is earth brown, and we're just going to paint it on and then just wipe it back pretty much straight away. And what that will do, it will just leave some mud, brown, dirt, whatever colour you choose in the in between the planks, and it just brings the texture up a little bit more. And we just use a bit of tissue, but you can use a brush, or like this. If you use a brush, you'll get these different sort of a different finish, like it's been brushed by, or the rain has run it, and you can see the difference that it makes straight away. Just that one thing makes a big difference. Now on the ends, they're typically going to be a lot dirtier, so we're just going to give this an extra little pass, especially along the bottom, just to make this a bit dirtier. And you can see the texture of the wood, which you can't see until it's got some paint on it, so that looks quite nice. And then the inside, I'm just going to muddy that up a little bit as well. We're going to do some extra things inside, some powder a bit later on. So it's just to add a bit of colour, just to dull it down a little bit. And we're just going to just wipe that back, same as before. And all the mud colour will catch around the edges and in the joins there. So our next step is to add some rust to the metal parts of the wagon sides. So we're using this is oil brusher from MIG, so it's a pre-thinned oil paint, and we use this because it takes a little bit longer to dry than acrylics. So you've got lots of time to mess around with it and take it off if you don't like it and manipulate it. And well, you're not going to use the brush that comes with the oil brushes because it's far too thick. We just use a fine brush. So once it's on, we're just going to wipe that straight back off, and where we've got the raised details such as the nuts and bolts and so on, as we run down with the cloth, it will leave little streaks. They give an impression of the rust running down the side of the metalwork. And then we're going to dot a little bit in underneath some of the nuts and some of the bits of metalwork that are attached. And then using a brush this time, we're just going to brush it into like a streak type of pattern. We'll come back to that in a second. We'll let it dry for a bit. And then on these pieces of metal that we've sort of stuck on, they would probably be rusted anyway, so we'll do the same with them. Add a bit of rust onto those, and we'll wipe that back as well, and we'll use the brush. So in our palette, we've got some odorless thinners or low odor thinners, which is especially for oil paints, and we're going to use it on the brush. Really not a lot of thinners on there. We don't want to wash it away. We just want it dampened, and we'll just go in sort of downward streaks, and it will pull the paint down and make it hopefully look like it's just a rust streak from the rain and so on. And then we'll just carry on, and we'll go around the rest of the wagon, all 4 sides, and on all 3 of the wagons. So we're doing this video in 2 parts. So this is the end of the first part, so thanks for watching us so far. Thanks for sticking with us. Just at the end of the video, you'll see a special mention to some of our members now who are following us on YouTube and pay a little subscription fee. And I just want to thank them ever so much for their support. And hopefully you'll join us too. The membership details are at the on the home page of YouTube. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks for joining.